Okay, now let's go to another Boland poem. So this is one of our social commentary poems. Remember that word we used in the video on the Famine Road? Polemical. Polemical. So that's a poem which has a message that pertains to society and politics and the way society functions. Don't forget, Boland is a poet who's interested in themes which are deeply personal, but also then broader social. So this is a poem which is very much rooted in a particular historical event, and that event is the Dublin and Monaghan bombings, which took place in the first half of 1974. Incidentally, the year I was born, even though I look very young, I'm 50 years old. And this poem is a poem which the poet thinks about the impact of division. So again, what we're looking for when we're talking about these poems are, we have to understand the particular and then look for the broader universal. So Ireland in 1974 was a deeply divided society, and that's why there were bombs being planted and there was civic violence. It was to do with the Northern Ireland Troubles. But the idea of division, the consequences of hate, the suffering of innocence in such a situation, those are ideas which are relevant very, very much in the world you inhabit today, I inhabit today. So while the poem is 50 years old and has a 50-year-old historical context, it has that modern relevance. It's an easy enough poem, a couple of key images that we have to talk about. So let's go. There are 1, 2, 3 simple stanzas, each stanza of 6 lines each, which makes them a sestet. And the poet uses imagery revolving around childhood innocence and nursery rhymes. Let's have a look at the first stanza. Again, it's worthwhile reading the whole thing before I highlight the quotes which I think you should learn. Yesterday, I knew no lullaby, but you have taught me overnight to order this song, which takes from your final cry its tune, from your unreasoned end its reason, its rhythm from the discord of your murder, its motive from the fact you cannot listen. The poet here is using a lot of rhetorical techniques. There's a lot of repetition in the poem. There's a lot of emotive language. Who is she talking to when she says you? She says, you have taught me. What does she mean when she says yesterday? What happened yesterday? What happened between yesterday and the day she writes the poem to bring about this change? When we look at that opening stanza, the key thing we have to do is think about that wonderful, wonderful line, from your unreasoned end its reason. Such a clever example of juxtaposition. Unreasoned and reason. It's a striking and deliberate choice of language. What the poet is saying is a child died in this bombing. That's why the poem is called Child of Our Time. The child's death was senseless and illogical. That's what she means when she says, your unreasoned end. And when she says that this lullaby, by that she means the poem, has taken its reason from the child's unreasoned end. What she's saying is she's writing this poem because she's been inspired by the death of this child. That the death of this child has struck her so powerfully that it's caused her to sit down and respond to these events by writing this poem. In the second stanza, she does something really interesting. She adopts, I just realised there, 1 second folks. So that should be in yellow because that's one to learn, okay? In the second stanza, she adopts the plural personal pronoun. She says, change the colour. There we go. We who should have known how to instruct with rhymes for your waking, rhythms for your sleep, names for the animals you took to bed, tales to distract, legends to protect, later an idiom for you to keep. And then the killer line in the second stanza, and living must learn from you dead. This is really why Boland is a great writer. The first 5 lines reflect what a society owes its kids. It owes its kids protection. children are innocent and that innocence should be protected. So she fills the stanza with images of childhood innocence. Rhymes for your waking, nursery rhymes. When you were small, you learnt nursery rhymes, a way of accessing the world and understanding the world in a playful way. Images of children asleep and rhythms, songs, lullabies that we sing kids when we're sending them off to sleep. Animals you took to bed, the stuffed animals, the toys that innocent children play with. Tales to distract, legends to protect. What she's saying is, as a society, we have a duty to protect children. And in the world in which she lives, they failed in that duty. And therefore, the child's death is a moment when society, and this is why she adopts a plural personal pronoun, society must come together. And look what she does. She says the word learn twice. Look at that second stanza, the way it ends. Learn, learn. Repetition creates emphasis. She's stressing how we cannot allow things like this to happen without learning lessons from them. And if we don't learn lessons from them, we are going to repeat these mistakes. Now, there's a word that I think is an important word for you to know, and the word is prescience. And it means the ability to look to the future and see what can happen. There's a message here in this poem that we just don't listen to, I think, as human beings and as a person living in a world today where we can see the rise of intolerance again in the world. We don't learn our lessons until the crisis hits. And this is Boland at a moment of crisis in Irish society saying we have to learn. We can't allow children to be killed because we can't find a way to function on this island together. And that's where she comes to the final last stanza. She says, to make our broken images rebuild themselves around your limbs, your broken image, find for your sake, whose life, and she hits us with the best lines in the poem in the last stanza, our idle talk has cost a new language. Child of our time, our times have robbed your cradle. Sleep in a world your final sleep has woken. The poem ends on a note of hope, but desperate hope. The imagery, the metaphors, the figurative language, they're all really powerful. The broken image of a child, a photograph of the body of the child being removed by a fireman, was splashed all over the papers from the site of the bomb where the body was removed. The broken image and the idle talk. Do you know what that refers to? That refers to the language of prejudice, of bigotry. And of course, this ties in with the famine road and how the way we view other people can cause misery. Idle talk means the talk of hatred, the talk of difference, the lazy language we use when we are being biased against other people. And she says, we are all responsible. Everybody in this society. We need to learn the third great metaphor of the final stanza. A new language. And she doesn't mean, German or Esperanto or Korean or Japanese. She means a language of tolerance, of understanding. A language where we no longer hate each other, but we understand each other. That's what we need. It's a brilliant, thought-provoking, memorable poem. Child of our time.